in a man's name. Her daughter Rachel, she went out to get a facial, and she came home with her hair on a mess. It smelled like perfume with bones and painted fingers, painted toes, and a freaky grandma lipstick stain on her dress. Her daughter Rachel, she went out to get a facial, and she came home with her hair on a mess. Well, Sydney thinks they are exclusive, but her Rachel is elusive at best.
Listening to Life with Mary Walter.
Life with Mary Walter.
Sydney's sister Sadie born and grew up in Haiti, where she's well practiced in the art of voodoo. But next time nature calls, thanks to Sadie's voodoo dolls, they'll be burning like a fire for you know who. Her sister Sadie born and grew up in Haiti, where she's well practiced in the art of voodoo. But with her love guitar, Rachel won't be flirting, no.
Life with Mary Walter.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Winds rising in the air, and words said on paper that you don't even dare to share. With all your friends gathered all around to hear this sudden slippery sound. Take them back to where you once belonged. Show them everything you've got. Take them back to where you once belonged. This is your big shot. Take them back to where you once belonged. Show them what you got. Take them back to where you once belonged. This is your big shot.
You're listening to Life with Mary Walter. Life with Mary Walter.
Life with Mary Walter.
The lights go down and your eyes go blind. You got 1,000 people dancing and you still don't mind. All plugged in and you lose control.
Here we are. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm great.
Good. Good. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm crazed. By the way, how is everybody? People are here already. Let me see who's here. Hold on. Al is with us. And Bill is with us as well. Hello, gentlemen. How are you? It's great to have you here. Great to be here. A crazy week. From now till the end of the year is crazy town for me. I mean, I had this week all planned out. I got my Christmas cards early. I got like 30 written, but I got like 30 more to do at least, And every year my Christmas cards get written in January because I never have enough time. Every year, without fail. And so we were putting up, so it's like the perfect storm. We were putting up Christmas decorations on the weekend, and hubby had me out there, and he's hanging over the gutter to put new lights up. Now we're putting lights along the gutter on the porch, right? So now he's doing that. So the two of us are up there, and they come tangled. They were new, and they come tangled like in a ball this big, right? Okay. And there's someone in China whose sole job is to tie them in knots and twist them around. And so I am sitting on the roof undoing these things, right? Trying to untangle them. And the wind was whipping 16, 17 mile an hour winds because I'm at the shore and it's damp and cold, and I'm out there like, oh, really? We're doing this? So trying to do it. He's like, just pull them. You got to pull them gently. So of course they don't all light, even though they're new. So you had to take the plastic, and some of them, they have the outdoor ones have a plastic cover on them with a little hole so the water drains out, right? So he reads all the comments for everything, and they said that that sometimes the plastic covers aren't on real tight. So I wound up having to go through and tighten every single plastic cover just to make sure they were all on, because some of them did pop off. And if they roll down the gutter, roll down the roof, I ain't chasing it, right?
Yeah.
Right, because that's the mistake you make. You like lunge for it and you topple right off the roof.
Yeah.
So I get 2 strands done, and he's hanging over the edge, from the top of the roof down to hang these lights on the gutter. And of course, the 2 strands that I did, we tested them and they lit. When we untangled them, they don't light. So we had to sit there and unscrew each bulb cover and then push each one of the little light, because the lights are like these little things, They're not like regular light bulbs. They're like, you had to seat them in each one. And both strands of light had one that was broken.
Ugh.
Both had one that was broken. So we got smart. On the last set, we decided to start at either end and then work our way to the middle, because we knew if we started at one end, it was going to be at this end. If we started at this end, it was going to be at this end. But if we start on the ends and work our way to the middle, we'll get to it faster. So we did.
That's a terrible thing to have to deal with, putting lights up like that. There's services for that now, I heard.
There are services. Yes.
I was like, what? Can you imagine how much money you must have to pay to get somebody to do that? We
have neighbors who get this done, and they come with like a lift, and they do everything. I'm sure it's at least $1,000 at least to get it done. I'm sure.
You gotta really like Christmas lights, or 100% not be willing to do it yourself, I guess.
Listen, we're getting to that age where the wind that we had the next day, the nor'easter we had the next day, blew some of the lights in the gutter. And the other part of the story is we're done. We get inside. We're all finished. He's cleaning up. He's like, you go inside, start dinner. I said, all right. I was freezing anyway. So he's cleaning up. Everything's cleaned up. He's downstairs. He's in the garage, and he's putting a bag of kitty litter. You used kitty litter. You can scoopable stuff. He leans over, puts it in the garbage can, stands up, and throws his back out.
The kitty litter is what got you. That's the worst.
He just lifted up the wrong way out, and he comes in the house, and I knew something was wrong. He goes, Mare. I'm like, oh God, what did he do? Right? Because I'm not good with blood, and I'm not good with like arms sticking out of sockets or bones or anything like that. I'm like, oh God, what'd you do? And he's like walking like he's got a load in his pants, and he's crooked. It's like, so I was like, oh no. So he threw his back out. So all forward motion ceased at that point in the game.
Yeah.
So we're done. We're just done.
It's over. Yeah.
It's over. We're finished. We're done. Nothing else is going to get done in the house. So once again, and the tree is still in a bucket of water outside.
It's par for the course.
Tree gets up after New Year's every single year. So, oh gosh, Survivor 9. I think this is Steve. Is Survivor 999 on Getter? I can't remember. I'm so sorry, sweetie. He says, here you guys are. I was still back on the Getter page entering messages, and then I clicked on the big live picture. Now here I am. I saw a sign the other day. He says, I saw a sign the other day, nice signs out. It said, say, we put up Christmas lights. He said, I may start a new business. You could be my first customer. Fly to the location to put up. You put me up at a hotel and provide my rental car. And you also provide the lights and electricity. Wow, that sounds like such a bargain. Maybe it's Scott. I think it's Scott who is Survivor 999. I am so sorry for butchering that. I apologize. I can't remember everybody. I apologize.
No.
But he's very active on Getter, and I wish I could remember, but I'm pretty sure it's Scott, not Steve.
Right.
So that's happening. So that's going on, right? And he thought I was the one who was going to fall off the roof. Ron says it's $1,000 for starters for those services. He lives in New Jersey, and Ron has an amazing Christmas light show that he sets to music. He does the same thing for like 4th of July and other holidays. He's a total techno wizard.
Right.
And but he leaves his decorations up all year. He leaves his lights up all year.
I just people who do that. Yeah.
So that's how, no, that's not happening. He did run. We have a big because we live at the shore. We have a huge flagpole with the yard arm.
Yeah.
And so he ran the lights up the 2 strands for the yard arm, and then they go across and come down. So we have the lights there.
Nice.
The lights are there. Let's see. And it is Scott. Yes. And he says, you provide the lights and electricity and he'll do it for $50. Thanks a lot.
Not a bad deal, actually, all things considered.
Well, hotel, airfare, rental car. I probably got to feed him. I got to provide the lights and the electricity. Come on.
We got
provide the
contacts. We can get that for under $1,000 though.
It depends where he's flying from and the time of year. It's tough, right?
I mean, we're not that connected.
No, not that connected. So that's how these things started out. So up until that point, I got 30 Christmas cards written. That was last week. I was banging out Christmas cards. We'd ordered them early. They didn't come out the way I wanted them to. I'm very unhappy with the service that we used. I used them last year too, and they had to reprint them. They really should have sent them back to reprint them. Last year's were too dark and they had to be lightened up. This year are really washed out. So I'm not happy. I'm going to use somebody else next year. So I'm trying to do all that. So then I had that. And then I'm like, oh, well, I've got this week. So Monday, I just have a hit on the Chris Salcedo show, but then I also did Brian Kilmeade show on Monday. They asked me, they're like, oh, can you fill in Monday? I said, sure. So that was last minute, fill in for Brian Kilmeade. Then I had Chris Salcedo. Then that was yesterday. That was yesterday. And then today, I'm here. I had I had to get all my medical stuff in before the end of the year because of my deductible.
Oh, yeah.
I hit my deductible, right? Because I broke my leg. So I hit my deductible. So my husband's like, you have to get all this done by the end of the year. So I did that today. And then I get a phone call as I'm sitting in the hospital in one of the radiology waiting room. I get a text, can you fill in for David Webb tomorrow? I'm like, okay, I could do David Webb tomorrow. So I'm doing that tomorrow, but I initially thought I couldn't. But then I can. So I'm doing David Webb tomorrow, finally getting my hair cut tomorrow. And then after that, I have to prep because then I got home and I was filling in on the morning show on Sirius on Thursday. So I have to prep for that tomorrow night, do that on Thursday. Then they asked me to also fill in for David Webb immediately after the morning show on Thursday and fill in for David Webb on Friday. All of this happened this week. Oh, I know what I did this morning. I didn't fill in for Kilmeade yesterday morning. Yeah, I did. I don't remember. But I did a hit on the Todd Starnes show this morning. So it all happens at the last minute. It's like these people take off a week before Christmas with no notice, apparently. Either that or these people just wait till the absolute last minute to schedule. I don't know which one it is.
Right. Well,
it's insane. So all this time that I thought I was going to have, and then Friday we're going down to our friends in Virginia. I have to wrap the presents. I have to get, I have to pack. I've got food that I have to get together. I have so much to do. It's insane. And then I know next week is going to be just as crazy as this week. And then the week between Christmas and New Year's, I'm working 2 to 3 radio shows a day, which I'm not complaining. I'm so blessed to have the work and I'm super happy about it. But I'm just amazed at the number of people who at the last minute are like, so what do you think? Could you fill in tomorrow? I'm like, it's week and a half before Christmas and now you're finding fill-ins? Like, really? Or your host just said, okay, like when I was working at the station in DC, we had to have our like vacation schedule 6 months ahead of time. Like they wanted it a year ahead of time if you could give it to them.
But you also know how some of these egomaniacs are. That's why I said both. There's plenty who are smart enough to follow the rules, do things the right way, put the time in early, get their things covered. But come on, we've both been in radio a long time, or TV. How many of these people also have the brains to go, oh, that's right. I'm going to Paris next Friday.
Right. I
Can you
forgot
cover
to
my
tell you.
week?
Yeah. So that's my craziness. So I'm just like, I just said to my husband, like, let's just not even bother decorating. He's like, we're putting the tree up. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's just stupid at this point. Every year, no baking. It's just holiday craziness. So that by the time New Year's hits, I hate humanity. Like he's working Christmas. I'm working. It's just like I hate it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Scott says the massage person and physical therapy person will be extra as well if he puts our lights up. He said this Christmas dealing with a car accident, not my fault. Broke up with a girlfriend, treacherous backstabber at work. Plus, for light installation, I need to provide physical therapy and massage person. Otherwise, it's $50. Well, that's terrible.
Yeah.
But you know what? Always do the breakup before you get into the holidays. Because if you try to break up, like if you've made it to Halloween, you've got like a 3-week period that if you don't break up with that person, you got to ride it through New Year's because you've got Thanksgiving with the family. You've got Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. You've got to ride that through the holidays and you have to do it then sometime in January because then you have Valentine's Day. So there's a very small window when you could, once Valentine's Day's hit, you've got all summer to break up with somebody. But once Halloween hits, man, the windows are this big.
Yeah.
To break up with somebody.
There's not a single one of those months that you're not ruining somebody's time.
Right.
Just any one of them, right?
Right.
Thanksgiving, it's worse than, I'm trying to think like which is worse. Is it worse to do it early and have it go through all that time, or to actually have made it through with somebody all the way through New Year's Eve and then you hit Valentine's Day and they're like, I'm checking out.
Okay.
Oh,
right. What do you do? And I think most people just ride it through the holidays. Most people just ride it through the holidays, exchange gifts, and they just ride it through. They get sucked into, they ride it through Valentine's Day. So you've got like a 4-month period where you're like, I need to get out of this relationship. And then you don't want to break up right after Valentine's Day. So you kind of have to give it another month and then you can start the process.
yeah, March,
right.
break up month. Yeah.
March, exactly.
We need break up month. Yeah.
Exactly. March is the God, I really wish I did this sooner month.
Yeah.
Listen to this from poor Scott. We may have a whole different discussion
real
here,
quick,
which is why I love doing the show.
Your audio just started doing that funny thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. You talk. Hang on.
Yep. So she's right. If anybody's ever been in a relationship, you get that thing where you just don't want to be there. You've just hit November and you're like, no, I'm here now. I'm in, Yeah, it's also a great time of year for relationships when they're good, but man, when they're bad, it's the worst time ever.
Right,
Hi. Yep. So that's not it. But anyway, so yeah, she's still fixing her audio. But yeah, so relationships, right? You're in when you hit Christmas, you can't break up with somebody in Christmas or the Hanukkah season or just it's not even just the religious thing. It's just the nature of December being supposed to be that month. It's like yay, we've got through the year month. So you can't go back. You can't kill somebody's December.
Okay.
Hi.
I think I'm back.
You are.
All right. So here's what he says. He says, I have a $200 Christmas gift. I'm still going to offer to send her away.
So I was just saying.
And he's going to do it since the breakup, a lot of it was my fault. But so here's the thing. That's just a guilt gift at that point, right? Like
I
that's
think depending what their relationship status is. If they're not talking, yeah, it's a real gift, guilt gift.
Okay.
But if they're talking, it could be like hey, I really want to make sure we have an open thing happening here. So weigh in, Scott, but
So here's the thing. When people use the word fault in a breakup, the only way it's a fault is if somebody cheated on somebody else. That's the only way it's somebody's fault. If you lose feelings for each other, that's not your fault. That just happened, right? It's not that I don't like you as a person. It's just that I love you, but I'm not in love with you, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's no one's fault,
Correct.
right? The only way it's your fault is if you started like doing her girlfriend behind her back. Then it's your fault.
Right. Or brother.
Or brother. We don't want to
him being
assume.
Scott, either way, I can really put a kink in the relationship too, but any of those things are, that or something you gambled when you weren't supposed to, or whatever. And by the way, I'm not using just you, Scott. I just mean these kind of things in general. Could be, maybe you got caught doing drugs or something you're not supposed to be doing, and she has a rule, or those kind of
right. Or like you said, like the gambling, that's a good one. Like if you gambled like all the money away, that's your fault. You have an addiction and you're not dealing with it. So that's your fault. But otherwise, if you guys come to a point where it's just not good, it's nobody's fault. People fall out of love. You have that honeymoon period where everybody's in love and, oh my God, it's wonderful. And you're the best thing in the whole world. And once you start to get into reality, like that lasts for like 6 months, a year tops. And then once you start to settle down into life and it's not new anymore, and all the hormones and the pheromones and all that stuff start to calm down and you get into the real thing, a lot of people, they coast it, and then that in love feeling dies out. And that's not the one then, Listen, I've been married for a long time, for decades. I love my husband. I'm in love with my husband, but I'm not like that first dating crazy in love. It mellows, you get into it, you become comfortable. It's different.
You build a relationship.
Right. And I know people who, once that wears off and you start to settle into it, they bolt because they need that rush all the time. They bolt. He says depression has its special kind of qualities in the holiday season. There are some people who I can see how you can get depressed because in the holidays, and I blame it on Hallmark, on the Hallmark channel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. When you're on the break, that's what I was saying. Like December to me is the worst month to break up with somebody, because it doesn't even matter if you're a Christian, you think of Christmas that way. You just think of December in general as like I've made it through the year. I've got these blessings for things around me mentality. It's just part of the season, right? It's just the way December feels. And man, when you crush somebody in December, man, you ruin the next year. It's a special kind of nasty. So I know what you mean. Like people get depressed during the holidays too, and it's just such a charged time.
Oh, it is, and I think there are a lot of high expectations as well when it comes to this time of year. Some very high expectations. Al says, "I will listen to Greg Lake's I Believe in Father Christmas on Christmas. That's my entire Christmas." Well, so here's the thing. I'm not going to say that's sad. If that's how you choose to spend your holiday, then that's cool, right? For me, we go to mass. We always go to mass on Christmas Eve. That's part of my holiday. I have to go to mass because that's really what it's about. It's really about that. And I have friends who we were invited to our neighbors because my husband's working Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after. So we're not going anywhere. He's in the hospital all day and he's on call all night. So, it's just like a regular day in that sense. But it will feel like Christmas because we're going to go to mass. Now, our neighbor invited us for an Italian Christmas Eve, right? Which I would love to do, but mass is in the middle of it. So we can't. So, because we're going to church instead, we're going to go to mass. We don't exchange gifts on Christmas, and he's going to go to work. So Christmas for us isn't going to be anything special.
Right.
Christmas Day is going to be nothing special at all for us.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, but we got invited to people's homes. And I think Al's a super nice guy. I would assume that Al has friends, and that if he wanted to spend Christmas with friends, he probably could if he so chose to do so. So if that's your idea of Christmas, that's cool. I think people expect it to be so much like this magical thing. And then if it's not a magical thing, you get into what Scott's talking about, how like it's a special kind of depressing if it's not like this magical Hallmark Christmas.
Right. You're not right. That Hallmark thing is so big, that mentality of it, like you said,
but it's not real.
Like a Disney special or something. Like a Hallmark special, like a Hallmark Channel special.
Right. But it's not real. It's not reality.
Right.
Okay. So Scott, here's what he says. He says, the thing, I just wasn't as understanding as I could have been. The thing is, I'm in love with her and I can't go through the Christmas season without sending a gift. She's not refusing my texts like she was. I'm just gonna have to like depression because I was hoping for a happy Christmas season. But I sang at mass at a big Catholic church here last year, and people still loved me. I had fans. I sang it. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Wow, he's talented. So here's the thing, and we don't know his relationship. And by the way, what's happening here right now? This is what James and I used to do on our old show. We'd say, "Send us your problems. We're going to solve your problems."
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's what we did. And I'm not saying we're experts or anything like that. And we don't know you and we don't know your situation. So, but he is remorseful. Scott's remorseful. He said, I wasn't as understanding as I could have been. Clearly, she got mad at him because she was refusing his texts, but she's not refusing his texts anymore. He admits he's in love with her. I see the door open for reconciliation if he plays his cards right.
Right. Absolutely. I think if there's a door open, and by the way, the texts aren't, please leave me alone, I'm blocking you. You definitely have some, I'm kidding, but you definitely have, I think, if you're having an open sense of communication, that's really good. You said earlier about love and marriage, right? Like, I'm divorced, right? And I joke, I call her the plaintiff, but I mean, we're still friends. We had a very amicable divorce where we both realized that we weren't meant to be together in that way, but we didn't hate each other. We didn't have a Scott situation in that sense, right? There's nothing like that, so, but I do think that open line of communication is important to any kind of good feeling after any of those kind of things, right? That's always a good way to go. It's always much harder when you have a real bad, like if he had not had communication with him, I'm sure it'd make Christmas way worse, right?
Yeah. Right. So maybe here's a little door opening, Scott, that maybe she will be a little amenable to hearing what you have to say, especially if it's an apology and you're recognizing that, maybe you made some mistakes and the two of you can talk it out. Right. I mean, what a way.
And hearing what she has to say, boy, I'll bet that's something.
Really? That's so true. Go ahead. You're right.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, that's the first thing I want when you open the line of communication is letting her get out the thing, that understanding what you did wrong from her perspective, really understanding why this was such a big thing you had to break up.
You have to listen, not just hear.
Yeah.
Listen to what she's saying. You have to do that. He said he was a guest at Mass and they advertised for singers to help during Advent. I will say this now, this isn't for everybody. I'm Catholic, so it works for me. But I find Mass a lot of times to be very therapeutic. It's a community event and people are celebrating, especially at Christmas. It's very joyful. And I think that can be very good for your soul. So Scott, he said, I'm not keeping my hopes up too high, but but you have to list. I don't understand what that means. But especially if you can, sing and lead, at Mass, which I can't do. To me, it's very joyous. And I think it really fills your soul. And I think it can make the holiday feel more special.
I did tell you that Ringo volunteered both of us to sing in my parents' church choir for Christmas, right?
No,
my parents, if just for setting it up, my mom, my mom and dad both work for a music ministry at a Catholic church. My mom is now the retired head of the music ministry. My dad's the choir director still, and does parts of her job. Whatever, doesn't matter. Point being, Ringo, my girlfriend, volunteered us to sing for the choir for Christmas.
Oh, nice. Are you going to do it?
We already went to rehearsal. Yeah.
Okay. Is lightning going to strike when you walk in the church?
Well, I thought my skin would sizzle. I was like, I think you might all die or something. My bed might have to bring me. And I'm not sure I'm even allowed in. But apparently I'm allowed in and welcomed.
Good. All right, Scott. Scott's over on Getter, so he can see what's going up on the screen, but we can't see his comments. So here you go, Scott. Bonnie says, yes, Mary, definitely Mass. Midnight Mass with family and Christmas Day, a nice meal and gifts for the grand and great grandchildren. But so definitely Mass. Here, we're totally off on a tangent here, but let me ask. Well, you know what? I'll save this. I was going to save that part till next week. Next week, I want to talk about the gift giving of Christmas, because every family does it differently.
Oh yeah.
And when you come from a family where there wasn't a lot, and you marry into a family where it's like, Christmas palooza, where it's like Santa's workshop threw up in your living room. It's so different to temper expectations. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's hard.
Mhm.
Okay, he says he's not keeping his hopes up too high about the lady that I am texting. That's what he meant to say.
Got it.
So, okay. All right,
Yeah,
Scott, well, keep us informed, and like I said, if you could always send us messages. You could send them messages on YouTube. You can, if you're on Facebook, if you look for Mary Walter Radio, I do have a public page. You can message me there. If you have a problem, we'll try to solve it. And you can also message me on Twitter at Mary Walter Radio. And James, what are you on Twitter?
Oh, hold on. I should know this, right? This is important.
You should know. Yeah. James Richard Rabick.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, James Richard Rabick.
James Richard Rabick on RABIC on Twitter. All right.
Not sure why or how I came up with that, but yay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're gonna do it in this order, but you did say something. It's a perfect lead into something I wanted to rant about.
Okay.
You said something amazing.
Thank
you
you.
did something that I think, or at least is indicative of the times that I find so fascinating, right? Because we're both, libertarian, socially, conservative. We've had this discussion, right? So,
right.
You said when you got all this work in the Christmas season, you stopped and told everybody how thankful you are. And in my mind, it's like thanking you people for having some success or doing good at your job that people want you. And that coincides exactly with a thing I watched that made me so giddy happy, but also the lesson there is real important, I think. And I don't know where this comes from, right? You would think, I know I don't know, sound political, but maybe a leftist philosophy. And let me set it up. I watch a podcast called Two Bears with One Cave with two of my favorite comedians. They get a great plug, Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. Okay. They're best friends and they're big opposites. And it's a barrel of laughs. So Tom went on a rant about, if anyone wants to find it, we can already link it on my Twitter. That's what I do. If you want to link my Twitter in a description or something, whatever. It's this amazing clip of Tom talking about letters he's been getting recently about people upset that basically they're talking about successful things like cars, fancy cars, and that you should not talk about these things because those things make me unhappy, right? So you should stop talking about them. And his rant is to the effect of, well, your problem is not me, it's that you're a loser. And, if you didn't have the loser mindset, you wouldn't have a problem with this, right? And in the clip there, he doesn't go, there's a much bigger thing where they go on, they talk about like, I met guys when I was a nobody who had a Rolex or a Corvette, and I didn't go, I hate you. I go, I wish I had that. And then by thankfully having fans, even loser fans like you, I'm now successful. And you shouldn't be angry at people who are successful. We're not talking about corporations that we're blaming for stealing jobs or eating our politicians. We're talking about regular people that were poor and now are successful. And they didn't cheat. They didn't lie. They're successful because you like them. Why would you be angry at their success or Mary's success? People like her on TV. People like her on the radio. She's in a position where she does lots of fill-in work. So people are happy to get her because she's available. The fact that you weirdly thought but hold on, seriously, I'm thankful that somebody's doing this for me. I was like, this reminds me of that talk. I'm like, man, I hate that mentality. I know this sounds like a leftist philosophy, but they're both raging liberals. They're not, libertarian, whatever, they're people who are angry at Uber left, I guess, at this communist mentality that you can't be successful in life, or the people who have some money or somehow owe you something.
Well, he sent me the video to watch, and Bonnie says, Bonnie says, I've always admired honorably successful people. Exactly. And it's honorably is the key in there, right? That's the key. Who is this? I can't. It's Susan. I think this is Susan. Looking at the picture, I think this is Susan. Hi, Susan. Susan's in radio too. Was in radio. I think she left and is doing something else now, though. Okay, so I watched the video, and here's what, as you were talking, here's the thing. I didn't know that they were like leftists. I didn't know that from listening to this.
Right.
the problem is the left created this because back in the day, you're right, we were never, like Bonnie said, you always admire someone who's honorably successful, right? I'm always happy for those people. And I was raised that, oh, if you want something, you work for it. Oh, you see, like your friends got really great sneakers. If you want them, work for them. Right? My father would be like, you have chores. I'll pay you more money. You do more work. I'll give you more money. You can buy what you want. Right? So, but that mentality died. My generation did not raise a generation that had chores. My generation raised a generation where we wanted them to have fun and we wanted them to be kids and we gave them no responsibility whatsoever. And at the same time, we have a society now where it is honorable to be a victim, where you want to be a victim, right? And that's where you want to. If you're a victim, you get attention and on and on. And so it's a convenient excuse as to why you're not successful. Well, I can't have those things because I have ADD, I have ADHD, I have, depression, I have anxiety, I have this, I have that. Well, I'm Black, I'm Asian, I'm a man, but I wish I was a woman. Whatever it is, you find your reason why, your excuse as to why you can't be successful, and then you never have to work for it. And then you demonize the people who did work for it, or God forbid, were born into a wealthy family. God love you, right? You won the genetic lottery. Good for you. Right. And then you demonize those people, and then they should pay you because they're luckier than you are, or they worked harder, or they didn't work harder. They were just, well, I couldn't work as hard because I have ADD, I can't pay attention, that type of stuff. There's all of that. And I think it's just a perfect storm of those things that have come about. Just very quickly. Scott says on Getter, he says, my cousin deceased was one of the richest men in Kentucky, filthy rich. And then he said, I like to look test.
Nice. No, I think you're right. I think this is indicative of also the mentality of thinking. What we both talk about, how there's a broken media, right? And it sounds crazy because we're technically in the media, but you know what I mean? Like the concept that these are regular guys is more my point. Like I said, they're leftists, but I just meant they're not hardcore political. They're also not conservatives. I mean, they're certainly not those people either. But my point is, they're not hardcore political people. They're just regular people, right? They're just people who work in an entertainment business. They don't have big political views. They're rational people who are funny, which is always why I laugh. Like I think comedians are a pretty good spotlight on what's happening in the universe, and they're shining a light on. I think just regular people who aren't going to put up with this crazy mentality anymore. Look at Bill Maher, who's a very big political guy.
Right?
Bill Maher lately.
I know.
Tulsi Gabbard, right? Like, I mean, let's go here. He's not. At some point, we start going like, hey, this is all starting to sound like nonsense, right? Like, this is starting to get weird. Like, what do you mean I can't? But look, if there's what is her name? She's Zach Baraf's cousin, and she's a comedian. It's right on the tip of my tongue, and she's a lesbian, and she was screaming that. You can't tell me how to call somebody gay. Like, you don't tell me what words I can use as a gay person to call other people gay. Like, how to be like, I have to use a certain tenor or anything like that. Like, I fought for my life to become who I am and to be out and popular. You can't tell me what words I can use. I was like, Jessica Kirsten. That's her name. Yeah. And I was like, hilarious. Because, and again, she's not somebody who leans right. People don't want to be told what to do and how we're supposed to live.
Right.
I think anybody political persuasion is starting to see that to 100% to your point. Like it's gone too far, like too many bad convergence of bad parenting and dumb ideas are making people somehow think like a communist and the world will be good.
Right. Well, Susan here, I think this is Susan. I'm not 100% sure. I can't tell by the picture. Jim Brewer. I have not seen him. Where has he been? Is he more conservative? Is that what's? I haven't seen him in a while.
He's another comedian. Like again, I think there's a very big comedian mentality of telling it like it is, right? Of just
well, that's what they do.
Laughing at it's why Saturday Night Live used to be funny, right? There was no leaning, even if there was left leaning, like it was still like they took swipes at everybody all the time, and nobody was safe, and everything was a joke. That's supposed to be what was funny, right? You were just making fun of people for fun. It wasn't war,
right?
And that's
Right.
how comedians
So,
still want to be. Whether you're a left-leaning comedian or right-leaning comedian, none of those comedians care about that. All the smart
but
comedians I know of either side are just it's funny is funny.
JP Sears is another one. And he looks like, I was so surprised because I thought he was like a California hippie. He does yoga. He's got like that yoga body, and he's got long hair, which he really needs to cut. And he's very funny. And then he started doing political stuff, and he's like mocking everything. You're talking about this stupid leftist mentality that is just ridiculous, but you're not allowed to talk about. And he was doing it, and I was so shocked. I was like, JP Sears, really? I was expecting him to be like a total California hippie. That's what I was expecting.
Well, look, California, the pandemic in California ruined a lot of people's thought process about how the world was supposed to work. Sort of like what the 2008 crash did for a lot of people too, about your mentality about money on some level. I think that pandemic turned, especially if you lived in California, man, they ruined everybody's life. Poor people, rich people, they just shut everything down in a way that was not thought out, and everybody got hit. Right? I mean, that's the problem in California.
Right.
Like that's why that California, that people just bolted out of California. All the entertainers, all the rich people who could afford to get out, gone. Lots of people are stuck there, but you know what I mean? Like people who realized they could get out of any persuasion got out of LA, especially, with California in general. Governor Newsom was a nightmare.
But they voted for him again. Right?
Yeah,
So
you
know what you vote for. So just be quiet. By the way, this is not Susan. I just looked up Susan's profile picture. I have no idea who this is. I can't. The profile's the little circle's so small, I can't tell who it is.
Well, hi, nice person.
Yeah. So I don't know who that is. No, 100%. I think he moved to Texas. Jim Brewer. She says, Texas or Florida. It's Kimberly. Kimberly.
Hi, Kimberly. While you're looking that up, I will say Tom Segura and his wife, Christina P., moved to Texas, moved to Austin. I don't know. I can rattle off a ton. They either moved to Austin or moved to Ohio or to Colorado or Montana, any places that out of California. Lots of entertainers, lots of musicians. Musicians now the biggest thing. Like I know you like some of those places, like Montana and some of those places. That's where a lot of these like rich musicians are going, right? They're going to these places where they can buy nice big houses and big properties because the pandemic told people realize LA isn't really an epicenter. It was just cool to live there, but you didn't need to be
there. Right. No, I agree.
That's,
so let me ask you,
a lot of lefty cities, but unfortunately, it seems to be happening a lot of like bad run cities.
So let me ask you a question. Have we turned the corner? Do you think we've turned the corner on all of this and that we're finally going towards more sanity? Because look at you talked about, you said something earlier, you said it was a circus, right?
Right.
Look at the Biden administration, right? You've got the guy who is in the nuclear energy department who dresses in, like a woman with the bright lipstick and the orange and all this other stuff, had zero qualifications to be working in the energy department, but they hired him because he is trans or gender fluid, whatever. I don't even know what half those words mean, but whatever. And now he's just been fired because he's allegedly stealing expensive suitcases out of airports and the contents. You got that. You had the signing today at the White House to protect interracial and gay marriage because apparently we were going to get rid of interracial marriage. I don't understand why we had to do that. He and you had a drag queen at this thing. Like,
look, honestly, I think you could probably find a nuclear qualified trans person if you'd wanted to, right? Like, just goes to show you how dumb they are. I mean, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but you get my point. Like, they didn't even find a nuclear qualified trans person or fluid person. They could have found those exist. You could have found one. You just picked a person who's good in the media. Is that what they chose? Or something like it's.
I don't know I have no idea what this person's qualifications were.
Well, right. It seems insane. That's insane, right? I'm sure it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't understand. Like I said, I don't understand, why everybody is pretending like this is right. You've got Fetterman is another one, right? Like you've got John Fetterman, who is supposedly this really not that together, right? Who was it? New York Times. I was trying to think of the word. The New York Times just named him to like one of the best dressed or trendsetters or something along those lines. And he walks around like an 8-year-old picked out his clothing,
He's the hoodie guy,
right?
right?
Right, the hoodies, the shorts, the big black sneakers that don't fit right. He walks like this, and he's got the moobs under there without a bra on, and the hoodie, and with the tattoos. He looks like he smells. He looks like he just came out of a dumpster, right? But I don't understand. I just don't understand it.
Can we just reset and go back to the corruption of like 25 years ago when we believed our politicians and they didn't openly lie to us and they almost were scared of us?
But they did lie to us. And honestly, I think it's better now that they no. I'll tell you why. Because they lied to us before, we just didn't know about it, right?
Right.
Now they're lying to us and we know. Now they're lying to us and we know, and I'd rather know.
Yeah, but the world ran better when the game was much better, right? There's no game now. Now it's just mockery.
Oh, look at this. Ron says that guy was an MIT grad. So, well, just because you're an MIT grad, does that make you qualified for anything? I mean, just because you got into MIT and you're an MIT grad, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. Yeah. But
I don't know. I don't know. So I just wonder if we're finally turning the corner with all of the stupidity and the craziness and pretending like this stuff isn't happening, because to your point, it's being led by comedians. Dave Chappelle.
Another one, Dave Chappelle.
Who led this? Dave Chappelle, right?
Rogan,
Bill
Dave
Burr,
Chappelle,
right?
Bill Burr, Shane Gillis. Remember when Shane Gillis got fired for some dumb innocuous thing he said on a podcast like a few years before, and he got fired off Saturday? So he was going to be a new guy on Saturday Night Live. He was a really funny comedian named Shane Gillis, and he was about to be on Saturday Night Live, and then they heard him do. Somebody could check if I'm right or wrong, whatever. But something like he either did an Asian voice on a podcast or made like an Asian joke on a podcast. Right, the way comedians do, like when they're in the border time of podcasts before there was like Uber Beat, whatever. Doesn't matter. Point is, Saturday Night Live then got real nervous, backed off, and he became like this crazy racist. By the way, he's a right-leaning guy, from Middle America somewhere, Pennsylvania or something, like a Middle America-ish kind of guy, right? Really funny. Doesn't do humor that in a way that makes you think like he has to be right or left because he's just funny, like good comedians are. They're not, usually political hacks, but. In fact, he does a great Trump, a really funny Trump. He does a really good one. And he never does anything mean, right? He just does a really funny Trump,
Yeah, well, that's why they wanted him on, I guess. Right.
He does a really funny that there's 4 comedians that Rogan has once a month. They do it's called Protect Our Parks. And it's a guy named Mark Norman. It's a guy, Ari Shaffir, who's always in trouble for, saying something really terrible. You know what I mean? But funny.
Right.
You know what I mean? He has a thing that every time somebody dies, because he's another one I've heard who says the thoughts and prayers is so stupid, because they're not the people reading it. The only people you're really helping are the people that are, you're laughing, right? You're trying to laugh at people that, whatever. So he always says when somebody dies, something really horrific about them, right? He'll put up something completely ridiculous, right? When they die. And look, whatever, funny or not, doesn't matter. Point is, he does. That's what he does. And he does it across the board. He doesn't do it to any particular group. It's to everybody. Right? He did one for the Queen. He did one for a basketball player, and I forget which one because I'm not a basketball person. But apparently, that basketball community is pretty tight, and they were not happy. But my point is, he has on these 4 guys, and they're all 4 of them have like those.
That sounds vaguely familiar to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
His name's Ari Shaffir. Mark Norman's another guy who just says crazy stuff in public because he's a white dude that grew up in like the craziest parts of New Orleans. He doesn't care what he says. No, he just doesn't. So it's funny to hear the 4 of them, like 4 people I know who like funny comedians who've all had like real media issues and,
Right. But to get back to what started this whole thing, to your point, is that, this idea of being wealthy is somehow evil and it's a crime. And if you're wealthy, you're supposed to apologize for it. But the people who are leading those things, look at the woman who leads Black Lives Matter, who founded Black Lives Matter, one of the founders, Patrisse Cullors, 3 mansions. She's all for socialism. She's proudly a trained Marxist, yet she has 3 mansions. So they want everybody else to be poor, but not them. Like, it's okay for them. They just want you to be poor. And they're really training these people to embrace being poor and to not want better. Because if you don't, if you don't have that, if wealth and the trappings are evil and bad, then you're never going to want that, and you're never going to work for that.
We're somehow, because of the media, and we have to figure out how to get past the problem of social media and the media being the super trusty thing now that we used to depend on like 50 years ago, right? You really have to do your own research and think for yourself, and don't get trapped in a box. Or you can follow that box all the way to either of the crazy extremes that are on both ends, right? Like, look, how many of those crazy weird wacko church things, those giant super mega churches with the crazy, like, who's the one who lives in Texas, that psychopath, you know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean? And they get billions of people to give them money because they make them believe that what they're telling them is this great thing, right? And that's no different than the Black Lives Matter woman who's got 3 mansions but telling you to be poor. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the mentality of somebody figures out how to make money, and then they know how to manipulate people. And there's lots of those kind of things going on. We have to be smarter and realize to think for ourselves, and comedians are a great way to help us see that sometimes, if we're smart enough to all see it. Because I don't think no community, the Hispanic community rebelled. They're not going to, they come from a lot of these communist places. They're never going to go back to that, right? If you're any kind of business owner of any nationality, right? You're never going to give in to that communist mentality. Nobody wants to give up their farm. Nobody wants to give up their business. Nobody's handing over their guns. Like, there's just core American values that in the end, politics will stop mattering if there really was a government that came in and said, hey, you have to stop doing all that stuff, left or right. Because I just think rational people that start standing up and going, no, especially in America. I just think that's the American way, and I'm hoping you're right. I think we are coming to a place finally where the world is going, let's get back to this thing where we can all try and be successful. That's our goal. That's the core of our values. Like, we all just hope to try and make a better America, and the people who do better at making a better America have more.
You mean like when Trump was president? James says there were some MIT grads who took casinos for a huge chunk of money counting cards. Can I just say, I don't understand, but why is counting cards illegal? Why is that illegal? You're just better at the game. If you can play the game just as well as they can, isn't that part of the game? If you figure out a way to win at the game, why is it illegal for you to win?
Because they have all the money.
But
you know, it's illegal. They're allowed to say it's not. You're not allowed to do it.
Right. No, it's illegal to count cards. You're not allowed to do that. I think it's illegal.
Really? I just thought it was the casino's rules. Like, they're allowed to have these rules because they're casinos. But
hold on.
Legalizing smartness? Huh. That would be fascinating.
Oh, it is not illegal. So you are right. It is not illegal. Now wait, hold on. This one says it depends on where you live and the local laws and regulations.
Right. So it could be in some places, right?
Right.
But I also think it's even fascinating that the law allows a casino to say, hey, we're not going to allow you to do that.
If you use a device to count cards, it is illegal.
Right. But if you're just using your brain, if you're just a smart guy.
Right.
I got a photographic memory. And I play cards.
This is interesting because this lawyer's firm, Weinstock Levin, they say they cannot ban players. And it looks like they're in Atlantic City, by the way. Oh, no, I think that's Atlantic City, not 100%. It says, yes, they're in Atlantic City. It's not illegal in Atlantic City. The New Jersey Supreme Court has actually ruled that casinos cannot legally discriminate against a player because he or she can count cards, even if they determine that that is what the player is doing. They certainly cannot discriminate just because they believe someone is counting cards. It is a skill. They cannot ban skilled players, and being skilled is not illegal. They cannot throw you out, as that would be discrimination.
So it's only the device style counting, like when you're breaking the law and they catch that.
Right.
Your individual single brain, not cheating, not bouncing off it, just your individual single brain is not illegal. Right.
Bonnie says counting cards is considered a systemic method of taking advantage of the spirit of gaming. Well, not New Jersey.
Not in New Jersey, right?
Not New Jersey. Okay. So quickly, I just want to run through. I like to read the comments as well for people who are listening to the audio on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So I like to read the comments that we put up on the screen. Ron says he has a cat on his lap. It's hard to type. Bankman Fried was an MIT grad who apparently didn't take any business classes. He was using what's the home accounting system that's on your computer?
Oh,
Quicken.
no, you're not-
Quicken. It was
QuickBooks?
like
Oh,
using
Quicken?
Quicken. Yeah, it was something ridiculous like that. Bonnie says enough is enough. Yes. Al, everything going on can be found in the Communist Manifesto. I believe that. I think he's right. I believe
Yeah.
that. Counting cards. Yes, we said that. All right. And hold
you
on.
know-
Got Scott back over here real quickly. He said, my farm neighbor was a multi-millionaire. I drove with him and saw his cool belongings. It never bothered me because I knew him since I was a child, and what's his is his, not mine. Besides, his girlfriend helped manage everything. She would holler at anybody that acted not nice. And he also said, James is helping to keep that hat in style.
Ah,
He
thank you,
likes
kind
your
sir.
hat, James.
Thank you, kind sir.
um, So-
Al's point, I think, real quick. I just think we
Yes.
said about the media ties right in perfectly, right? You know, those kind of crazies have always been around. Flat earthers, communists,
right.
any of this stuff, or Nazis, they've all been around, right? All that stuff has always existed, and we've always fought that on some level. And never the KKK, it all existed, right? It's always been
Right.
around.
Yeah.
Even terrorists. The problem is the access these people now have to get in people's brains, right? That's the sort of thing we're not coping with. They're really good
Right.
at targeting the dumb now in a way
Right.
they never were able to do in the 70s when we worried about it, or the 80s when we were worried about it. Look, I saw pamphlets for all these people in the late 80s and early 90s. And every fish show I went to, there was some communist running around trying to tell you, like, the hippie lifestyle is the communist lifestyle. Join the Communist Party. And then, you know, you got high and you laughed at that guy. You know what I mean? Like, now they have a platform. They
Right.
can do this. They can start a podcast and talk about being communist and why being communist is so great. I know a communist. He's a moron.
Oh yeah, they're and
on.
they usually I love the socialists, people who are pro-socialist but inherit a lot of money and they think it's okay and they live the high life and they think it's awesome. Right? I'm like, really? Why don't you divest yourself of everything? Jerry says the casinos will change the way the cards are dealt and deal a fresh stack of decks on every hand if need be, which renders counting ineffective.
Right.
Huh.
Smart.
Did not know that. Scott says, maybe because you're using an extra facility to help you win the card game over other people. That's why you can't use the handheld thing, I guess. It's also a felony to go to another casino in another state and see what they're doing somehow. I don't know what that means.
You mean like
Lost on that.
intel, like bringing intel from another
I don't
casino
know.
to your state? Like, oh, I went to the Philadelphia casinos and here's what they're doing. We can do that.
Well,
or
I
something.
would think no, because like you can go into other restaurants and see how they're serving their salad bowls or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
How would you regulate? I'm trying to imagine what he means. I'm thinking, like, how would you regulate that?
yeah, he says, then go back across to another state and use that information to bet. So he said, I forget exactly how it's illegal. No, I didn't know that. I don't gamble. The only thing
Me
I do
neither.
is play the lottery. By the way, I won $10 on a $5 ticket. Boom, sucked that. Look at that. Boom.
Very nice. Very nice. Good $10.
Bonnie says, yes, they have, James. However, their message is mass produced and broadcast nearly every minute of every day. To your point, James, the media and social media, which is why, you know, we talk about not caring. Look at Elon Musk. And the reason I think Elon Musk is doing, we talk about Dave Chappelle, right? And Elon Musk doesn't care. You know, they booed him at the Dave Chappelle show in San Francisco. So of course they booed Elon
Of
Musk
course,
because they
right.
hate free speech, right? But they're there to listen to Dave Chappelle, which is odd, right? Because you know what you're getting with Dave Chappelle. So you would think that the little snowflakes would melt with Dave Chappelle. And then they boo Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, TMZ was reporting that backstage, he didn't give two farts in the wind about them booing him. He doesn't care. He's the richest man in the world. He has 0 F's to give with these people. Right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Jerry says $10. You're wealthy. I can't watch anymore.
Yeah. There's
Well,
some
it's really
really-
only $5 because I spent $5 on the ticket, so it's really only a $5 win.
Yeah.
So
Look, there, like we said, every form of media on every level, whether no matter what side you're on, every one of these groups, or whether you're has money to produce a narrative, and they can tell a story they want because everybody needs to get paid, right? There's just right-leaning medias out there that are just as guilty of doing dumb stuff because in the end, we've talked about it all the time. They've got program directors and people, and when you're big enough and you're making enough money, everybody's going to look the other way once in a while to not say something if it's going to help their side because everybody's feeding each other, right? That's why it's
Right.
you need to just look for real news out there or real anything and stop and think about the issue about why somebody's upset about something and think, am I really upset about this? Or are they telling me 24 hours a day some boogeyman story, which a lot of people are doing because they want you to believe something. Reality is most people, like I talked about that Protect Your Parks, those 4 guys couldn't be 4 more different guys of different things they're just fun comedians and they're friends. And they have different political views and different whatever views. And they're like 4 best friends. That's how most of us are in the world, right? We're just people who want the same stuff and we laugh and we giggle and they make such a nonsense out of it makes us stop thinking about what we're supposed to be thinking about.
Honestly, I think that
the
inmates have been running the asylum. It's a very small but vocal group of people. And when they don't get their way, they tear stuff down, they light things on fire, and they riot, right? But their friends in the government who also believe that way because they can seize power from it, right? They get emergency powers and all this other stuff. So they think what they're doing is wrong, but it benefits them, so they don't care, right? So it's when you come right down to it, the vast majority of people, I think, in Portland don't like their businesses being burned down. I think that's probably not a thing that they like. The people who were living in Seattle in that chop zone, who just got stuck into that, find out that it's now an autonomous zone, that police aren't going to come for them. And they're like, wait, do I still have to pay taxes? Right. Well, God, then my husband would be like, boom, not paying taxes, right?
Oh, by the way, hey, militia, somebody just broke into my car. Are you going to help me with this?
Right,
no?
right.
Oh,
exactly.
Okay. Well, maybe I got a problem. Yeah, of course. That's that's my joke. Like, can't we just go back 25 years when at least the corruption was at least invisible and everybody had at least a relatively common belief in normalcy? It just seems like everybody's so okay with taking news from extreme people or taking and just not critically thinking. It always comes back to that. Just stop and think a minute. Just take a second, look at the facts and go, I believe this. And then
but here's
you don't agree with the other person, you do this.
Here's what you just said, though, going back to critical thinking. People don't have time. People don't sit and read the newspaper in the morning over coffee and breakfast in the morning. That doesn't happen anymore. Too many looked the other way. You're absolutely right, Kimberly. James says Elon isn't the richest man anymore. Bernard Arnault.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
He's still so rich that he could give away so much of his wealth, 80% of his wealth, and never work again, never care. He's so rich, it's beyond belief. So the fact that somebody dethroned him is just psychotic, but who cares?
Yeah,
he's very rich.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so I was just reading what Scott says here because I'm trying to go back and forth to the people on Getter because their comments don't come up on YouTube. He said, I had some very brilliant friends with multiple college degrees and master's degrees that win buku bucks. I guess one of them told me about it, not admitting that they did, but I believe they did and invented it. But we were talking about Elon Musk. I lost my train of thought
Dave
here.
Chappelle and how they booed him and whatever. And
how they boot. But I think it takes a guy. This is my point. I've said this forever. Elon Musk is a recent immigrant. It's the recent immigrants who value freedom of speech. It's the recent immigrants who value the way what America's supposed to stand for, and they still believe in it. So that's why you've got him doing that. But when it came to, I remember messaging, and you were talking about news and critical thinking. Our lives now, no one has time. My parents, my dad would come downstairs, he'd have coffee with we were already at school. Like by the time my father got up to go to work, he ran his own business. He did all of this. He would come downstairs and be able to sit and have coffee and talk to my mother in the morning, right? That doesn't happen anymore because both parents are working because they have to now, right? A generation ago, they didn't have to both parents didn't have to work for the most part. That's number one. You've got soccer practice and this and that and everything else, and everything in the kids' lives is programmed. My parents were like, you each get 2 activities, pick them. right? Do you want
Right.
brownies? Do you want softball? Do you want Girl Scout? There's one of me to drive 3 kids around. And my mother was like, you got to drop. My parents at one point were like, if you don't keep your grades up, something's got to go.
Right.
And they
Right.
would come to you and go, pick which one you're not doing anymore, because either we can't afford it, or I don't have the time to drive all over the place, or whatever it happened to be. This idea of giving into everything your kids want and traveling all over the country because the kids have a soccer tournament over here or this or that. Oh no, it's good. It'll help them get into college. I'm like, really? The 8th grade soccer tournament in Delaware is going to help your kid get into college? Really? I'm going to go with no on this one.
Hey, well, what about this? Well, what about the school structure itself? Back when I was in high school, we had a principal and a vice principal, and they had a secretary each, right? Now, every grade at my high school has a principal and a vice principal, and they all have secretaries.
What?
Right? Or at least there's a secretary for each thing, but there's that's what, 8 principals?
Oh, it's the unions. That's the unions.
But you see what- right? Like, and teachers are, have to buy their own supplies. Like, it's insanity, right? Like, the mentality of how it works now is so bizarre from when you and I went to high school. Like, everything is so hyper, so much bigger, right? Like, even expenses. If you live in a house, right? Like, people now everybody's got to have some kind of a cell phone, right? Like, cable bills are like, there's the keeping up with the Joneses mentality is so much stronger now than it ever used to be. My parents never had to keep up with the Jones mentality. Like, they had it because they could get it and they worked hard for it, or they didn't. But
that's
we're going to buy an extra TV in the house because everybody else had 5 TVs. That was never going to happen.
But that's a choice that you make. And this, to bring it home, goes back to Tom Segura in this video where he talks about, you have to make your choices, about, and you have control over this. Don't envy me for my wealth. You have control over it.
Yeah.
Right. Go out and work. Go out and, invent the wheel. Do something better. Go out and do your thing so that you can have it too. But don't denigrate me or tell me that I'm a bad person because I have wealth, or I'm supposed to hide it because it makes you uncomfortable to see that I have something that you don't have. Right.
It's so crazy. Right.
It's ridiculous. Kim says simplicity over competition. And that's the thing. But to bring this back home to where this whole thing started out like half an hour ago, is too many people don't make those choices. How many people have big screen TVs and they have this and they have that, but they don't have 6 months of savings, right? Yeah. They have nothing saved for retirement because I'm going to live off Social Security. And you're like, no, you're not. Your Social Security is not meant to live off of. That's not how Social Security works. But they have to, like you said, there's this envy. And so the keeping up with the Joneses thing, and then if you can't keep up, you hate them and you put them down, and because of the jealousy, right? Doug and my husband and I live below our means. We've lived below our means our whole lives. You look at our house and you're like, oh my God, they must be so wealthy. We got our first couch that wasn't a hand-me-down. We got like 8 years ago.
Right.
Like, up until then, we had a hand-me-down. Almost every piece of furniture in this house is somebody else's furniture because I like old things. So I take them. This is why I have no time, because I'll finish them up. I'll make them look real nice, that type of thing. Then people are going to throw them out. It's dovetail construction in the drawers. I mean, they're beautiful when you clean them up. My entire porch is furnished with things off of Facebook Marketplace that were like $25. You just had to go get them.
100%.
I bought new cushions for them because I had to. And there's 1 or 2 pieces out there that were bought just because I couldn't get coffee tables.
Right.
I just couldn't get them. So I did have to buy things out there. But, our heat's still not on in this house. If it goes below 52 in the house, the heat comes on right now.
Right.
But the heat's still not on because I put on another sweatshirt. We're trying to see if we can make it to January without putting the heat on. And I make a fire and he splits the wood. We go around and we see the wood in the street. We take it. He splits it. We heat the house with it, right? But there's a lot of people who would never, ever do those things. A lot of people would never do those things. And they think we're crazy for doing them. And I'm like, yeah, but, I can scoot to retirement because I've saved everything, So it's a very, very twisted look at it right now, I think there.
Yeah, people are
Uh,
fucking crazy.
Al says Social Security is there for you to die a little slower.
I love that. Oh, that's funny.
Oh my God. And I
Hilarious.
have to say one more thing, and then we gotta scoot because I have a crazy, crazy week rest of this week. I thought of you, Al, because died suddenly was trending on Twitter today, but it was died suddenly spelled wrong. Suddenly was spelled wrong. And I was like Suddendly. Suddenly. It was suddenly. It was spelled
Great.
wrong, and it was trending on Twitter. So I will put a link to this actual video that you were talking. I'll put that in the description on YouTube. So I will do that for you so you can see that. We will get this up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'll get the audio up hopefully soon. I'll send it to you, James. Ship it back, get that up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Really appreciate you. We will be doing a podcast this Thursday, 7:15. It is a political podcast. And then next week, we'll do on Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday is like the 22nd, I think. What is Thursday? Is the 22nd. Look at me. So we'll have podcasts Tuesday and Thursday next week, 7:15 live on YouTube and Getter. Please tell your friends. Please like the podcast. Go back, watch old ones. Please like them. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. We really, really appreciate that. Al says, love to all. Mwah. Love you, Al. Let's see if Scott, okay. So Scott has not posted anything else. And tomorrow I will be hosting in for David Webb on Sirius Patriot Channel 125 from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time. Thursday, I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow. Very excited. I'm going to take like 4 inches off of this mess. Then Thursday, I will be hosting for Alex Marlowe on Sirius Patriot Channel 125, and that is 6 to 9 a.m. or 5 to 9 a.m. I got to look on Sirius Patriot. I know, morning show. I don't know. Maybe it's 6 to 10 a.m. I have to look, but the morning show on Sirius Patriot 125. And then Monday, I will be back on the Chris Salcedo show with Michael Reagan. Mike and Mary on Mondays with Mike and Mary, between 4:30 and 5 o'clock Eastern time on Newsmax TV. Follow me on Twitter at Mary Walter Radio, all one word. James, you are?
James Richard Switch or James Richard Rabick on Twitter.
James Richard Rabick, Rabic.
Yeah, Rabic.
And I always will post everything I've got coming up. Like I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to post everything now for tomorrow morning. I posted everything about this, so I will do all of that. So thanks so much, guys. Half the stuff I said we're going to talk about, we didn't.
Yeah, it happens.
But we got a good conversation.
I'm sorry at the end here. I just got real sad at your success. So I was just mournful about your success there. I'm like, man, I don't know how we deal with this.
Thank you, Kim. Kim says, everyone take care. Thank you, Barry and James. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it and participating and leaving comments. We appreciate that. Ron says, great vibe tonight, or Vib. He says great Vib tonight, but he does have a cat on his lap, so I understand that.
Yeah.
All right, so we will see you on Thursday. I just have to get all of this ready to go, and we are out of here. Take care, everybody. See you Thursday.